we only have one Earth. This is the planet that we have, and we have to take care of it. We take care of the land, we take care of the resources that are around, the natural resources, and follow the natural laws. The Earth, the planet, Mother Earth as we call it, will be good to us and provide us with all that we need. So right now, we depend on Mother Earth, and Mother Earth provides us with such abundance. All that's going to go by the wayside if we don't act to protect Mother Earth, protect the natural resources. All these trees, the rivers, the air, the land, and the fish, they don't have a voice. It's us, each and every one of us, that has to give a voice.
So I'm David Ellis. I'm Chief Ship Disturber for today. I'm a bookseller and I roam around this country quite a bit. I know a lot of people because I'm 62 years old now, and I've decided to do this. I made a vow on the internet that I would have a demonstration on the 17th of August, and I'm a man of my word. So we're doing it mostly by the internet, I guess you've all heard. And so I've been running this pipeline as I go up here on my business trips to libraries and First Nations. I've been keeping an eye on the pipeline. I've been stopping to see repair sites and even been hiking it quite a few places with my bear spray handy, and found out quite a bit of information. Not a lot, as well as I got as much as I could off the internet. Kinder Morgan website is a good start. There's quite a bit of stuff there. From technical papers, which I have supplied to a lot of the First Nations in easement who are in heavy negotiations now. I've supplied just about all of them, the major technical papers for their work with negotiation. And then I've also talked to the maintenance people who are really the most important people because they know the details of what's going on here. But I'll blab in a minute. Why don't we hear from who's all here, and here you go, Eddie.
This way?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Eddie Gardner. My Mi'kmaq name is Takelam Spath, and I'm from the Squaw First Nation. We are the salmon people, the people of the river. Salmon are our relatives, and we have grave concerns about what's going on with Kinder Morgan doubling the pipeline, doubling the danger of poisoning the waters, and killing our fish. So wild salmon is sacred to us, and we need to do everything humanly possible to protect the waters, the air, and the land, and our renewable resources like our wild salmon.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary John. I'm the elected chief of Seton Lake Band and the current chair and spokesperson for the Sandlim Chiefs Council. It's good to be up here with you all. We just yesterday we closed our fishery in our part of the territory in recognition of the struggle that the salmon are having. Warmer water is certainly a concern, but our leadership expressed tremendous concern about the fact that not only are the salmon suffering, but the habitat that they're trying to survive in is suffering incredibly as well.
Yes.
When you look at the amount of discharge that's going into the Fraser River, it's a miracle that salmon even can survive in the water that's there.
Yes.
And we see federal government doing everything that they can to avoid having to take responsibility or do responsible things for the fish. Habitat is being degraded as we speak. Mines are being allowed to open up. Industrial logging is still rampant as we speak, and that all has a trickle-down effect, and we're the last ones that have to pay the price. In our territory, we've done a lot of things over the past 5 or 6 years to improve habitat and improve opportunities for salmon in our waters, and but we probably won't be the beneficiaries of that. It'll be everybody downstream, the sports and commercial fishers, that'll be the beneficiaries of that, and there's little or no recognition given for our efforts. that's but we didn't do it for recognition or for a pat in the back. It's part of the responsibility that comes along with our title and rights that we hold as Indigenous people. I also have a chair on the National Board of Directors of the Council of Canadians, and I'm really happy to see the work that our staff are doing across the country and around the world. We're raising awareness about the impact of Kinder Morgan's presence throughout the country. And what we're going to witness today really is going to be, if Kinder Morgan and other companies can't maintain their infrastructure here, why should we allow anybody else to build any other pipelines and take chances? Because if there is a major spill here, the impacts on Fraser salmon and on the watershed are going to be felt by everybody in the province, not just those that rely on the Fraser. That is what was kept in mind the other day when I met with other chiefs, and we decided that we're going to be closing down the fisheries in a huge part of the territory and give the salmon the little boost that they need. Hopefully, but the frustrating part once again is that the federal government of Canada has been using some kind of wacky science and methodology, and they've been using that for the past 125 years, and the results are really obvious. And I often wonder if the federal government knows which is their elbow and which is another body part that I'm not going to mention out of respect for everybody that's here. But it's good to see that there's a good cross-section of people that are as concerned as we are, and we came up to express solidarity with everybody that's here today. Look forward to carrying on this work. Thank you.
My name is Art Adolf, Chief for Coquihalla, and also Coquihalla is one of the 11 communities that make up the Schlechtling Nation, and also the chair for the Little Tribal Council. And like Cook Big Gary indicated, is that we're going through a lot of struggles back home in the Schlechtling territory in regards to the fishery. And like right now, things are heated up. DFO shut down the fishery, and we've indicated to them that we're going to be fishing. They shut it down on Wednesday, and we indicated that we'll fish until Friday and then reassess it. And we've done some reassessing yesterday, and like Cookby mentioned, is that some of the communities have shut the fishery down, but Coquihalla and Coquihalla, we took a stand that we're not going to tell our members they can't go fish, because basically they have that Aboriginal title and they have that Aboriginal right to fish. And so what we've indicated to DFO, they have to step up to the plate and actually start implementing the Cohen Commission report, the recommendations. And in these recommendations, there's a number of issues that really have to be addressed. And one of them is like what we're here today, looking at the impacts of pipelines. That's mentioned in the Cohen report, that there is a potential for harm to the Fraser, especially harm to the fish, if these are continue to operate without proper maintenance. And the Schlechtling also stood side by side with the other interior tribes up and down the Fraser, voicing our opposition to the Kinder Morgan, and we signed Save the Fraser Declaration up in Williams Lake a couple of years ago. And we also stood side by side with the coastal tribes, looking at the need to protect the salmon as they migrate and as they come back, as they return. And there's a number of impacts that the salmon encounter along the way, and one of them is the potential for this to burst, the Kinder Morgan pipeline to burst, and but there's also a lot of impacts that the federal government does not want to address, and like what Eddie talked about is in regards to the bottom line, and capitalism is really what is driving this country. And so we have for us as Indigenous people, we have two different values. We have capitalist values, then we have egalitarian values. Egalitarian values really take a look at, like what was mentioned, like if we manage the land and resources in accordance to our values and principles, which was passed down for generations through our through our legends. And in our legends, they talk about proper management and also the consequences of not managing it properly. And coyote is used a number of times as an example throughout our legends. Is that a lot of times coyote does something wrong and he dies. And as a result, another coyote jumps over him about 4 times and he comes back to life. And we really have to adhere to the message in these legends in regards to, well, what did coyote do that caused him to die? And so for us, we can't jump over, one another, and everything will be okay. And we really need to look at our values, our principles, and really take a look at a fully functioning ecosystem and what it sustains. Like for us, we have, we're a land-based culture. Our culture really depends on a healthy environment, a healthy ecosystem. It's basically whatever the land, like what Eddie talked about, whatever the land gives us and whatever the resources give us, we have to manage that properly, and that's handed down through our legends and our ecological indicators. As basically with a land-based culture, if we look after the land, and in turn the land and resources is going to look after us. So we have that mutual responsibility for one another. And through the capitalist system, this isn't there. And the capitalist system looks at land and resources as the bottom line, and make a quick buck. And how many times has this pipeline, the Kinder Morgan, has changed hands over the years? It was all based on capitalism. The first company that owned it, they made their millions, and they moved on, and they sold it again. Then that company made their millions, and they moved on. And now we have another company that owns this, Kinder Morgan, and they're hoping to capitalize on they're making their millions, but they're left with a rotten pipeline. And their bottom line, they don't want to dig into their pockets to repair the damages that is occurring on their pipeline. So they're driven by capitalism, and not to dig too deep in their pocket, but to take whatever they could and patch, like what David talked about, they're patching things up, and that's how they hope to continue. But what we really need to do is to make government accountable. That they cannot allow companies, industry, to dictate how the land should be managed. And from my point of view, it's organized crime at the highest level. You have government and you have industry going in the back room with their lawyers and coming up with making policies and legislations that will advance theirs. No matter what the courts have said, they're still chugging along, advancing their own agenda. So it's up to us, like all of us coming here together as Indigenous people and non-Native, coming together with a one cause, is to protect what we have, what our Creator has given us. And our struggles is going to be tough, but nothing's impossible. By us coming together, we can accomplish what our goals are.
I'm Rory Tsikata. I come from Vancouver. My history is as a Japanese Canadian. My dad depended on the ocean and rivers for his livelihood. If he had to raise us in the current context, he'd have a terrible time. And the reason I'm involved is that I'm thinking more towards the future generations that will be inherited Mother Earth, whatever state we leave it at. And as Eddie and the other speakers indicated, we need to preserve the land so that it's sustainable for future generations, many generations to come. And when I came out of the internment camps with my dad and mom and my siblings, the environment that we settled in was pristine. There was no talk of pollution, there was no talk of smog affecting our air, and no acid rain. That was not in our vocabulary. It wasn't even the vocabulary of my First Nations neighbors, the Cape Mudge Band, when we talked about the environment. They talked more about the plenty of what Mother Earth provided, Herring was thick on the shoreline and out in the water. Spring salmon was plentiful. All the salmons were plentiful. As a matter of fact, when we fished commercially, we pleaded for the federal government to shut it down because we're tired, right? Now they're lucky to get about 4 hours or 5 hours. So that concerns me. And my view is that it's a total system. The air, the land, the water, it's all integrated. You do something to one of those, it's going to throw the balance off. So that's my concern, is that the decision makers, in my view, have not been given a social license to do what they're doing. And that, to me, is going to be a tipping point where there's enough people hammering the doors of MLAs, MPs' offices to say, look, it's not acceptable. I think that's the only thing that'll make a change, because the courts are courts, but that becomes just a judgment. They choose to follow it or not follow it. But when it comes to demanding the social license, when people rally and gather and say enough is enough, I'd say that's the power that's going to make a change. So that's why I'm here.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Day. I'm from Coquihalla August. That's Bonaparte Indian Band, just up from Cache Creek. I work in health. I'm a student. I have undergrad in economics and a master's degree in Indigenous governance, and a long distance runner. So I'm here kind of in solidarity. A lot of good words have already been spoken, so I won't go on, but to keep things in perspective, I know a lot of times when we come to these things, we think of the salmon here and everything downstream, but really this is all downstream from the real problem. And so really here in solidarity with those who are getting tar sands torn out of their lands, torn out of their mother, our mother, and to keep that in perspective, that what we're fighting for here is not gonna help, but it's not solving anything. Because the real problem is upstream. So we do have to take care of our own territory. We have our own autonomy, and that we can support theirs by fighting for our rights here. And yeah, to always keep in perspective the true owners to this land and the ones that really are responsible for this land, and that's the Indigenous peoples here. And it's great to see a lot of non-native people here in solidarity and in support of that, so that we can upkeep our responsibilities as as Indigenous peoples. So, Kusham.
Hi, Hugh McPherson. I came down from Kamloops. I have to give thanks to the Shuswap Tribal Council who alerted me to this gathering today, so I thought I would come down. And living in Kamloops all summer long, you said this feels like winter weather. So I'm shaking a bit. But I'm making a journey that probably started about 5 years ago. Is that I'm among that huge majority of people in this country who think that abundance is provided by overweighty foods. The food that goes on our table, we don't know anything more about it than that. And I wanted to become closer to people who are more intimately impacted by land, sea, and air, and the abundance that comes from that. And this is really my first foray into it. Aside from a lot of reading and a lot of blogging, I express myself, I'm sure, better in print than I do like this, he said. And there isn't really much for me to say. I'm here to learn. And I think that I can't really add any more to that. The words of life that I heard after the blessing, I think, hit me right where I live. So that's why I'm here.
Hi, I'm Stan Probosh. I'm a fisheries biologist with Watershed Watch Salmon Society. And so we're an environmental charity working on water and salmon conservation issues throughout the province, and we've been around for about 15 years. And yeah, there's been a number of great things that have been said already today. I just want to highlight a few things. One, the bigger picture that we've touched on is this sort of petroleum-based industry. We're getting into extracting some of the more risky sources of petroleum at this point in time. We're using some very risky methods, like Eddie mentioned, fracking. And in my opinion, it's quite ridiculous, injecting water and toxins into the ground, and not very certain as to what's going to happen. Deep well drilling in the ocean, again, we've seen accidents happen using those technologies. And of course the oil sands, a very uses a lot of energy, and it's very costly, and it's actually quite environmentally destructive. It's been some science coming out in the Athabasca River showing that leaching from the oil sands is actually having impacts on salmon and water quality there, and potentially people as well. Before I came, I just did a bit of research. We're a science-based organization. I looked at a few papers, and I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that the substances passing through this pipeline are quite toxic. And one of the components that's common in most all petroleum products is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs, which are highly toxic. And there was a study done coming out of Queen's University that exposed fish to wastewater from the oil sands, and looked at the results of this on these fish and their reproduction. And it's not surprising that these toxins have negative impacts, especially on the early life stages of fish. So there's a number of deformities, effects on survival of the eggs and the elvin of the fish. Also hemorrhaging, deformations of the spine. So these substances are very toxic to ecosystems and life, which put these rivers, this one in particular, and downstream at risk. Not only can it cause mortality of individual fish, depending on the nature of the spill, of the continuous leakage. It could have population level effects on our salmon and other species, and our water quality. And it's been mentioned as well, some of the substances don't all evaporate into the atmosphere immediately. Bitumen, for example, sinks, and it's the nature of the systems we're talking about. The river systems here, they're very dynamic. Substrates bounce around and move down the river, and if bitumen gets attached to large woody debris, rocks, etc., it's going to be very hard to clean up, if not impossible, and it's going to continue to leach toxins continuously. So it's a very threatening situation we have here, especially with a pipeline that's half a century old, if not more. And then the final thing I wanted to touch on too is we have to think about the effect of the pipeline and toxic implications, but also how those impacts interact with everything else that's going on in the watershed, all the other negative things that are happening, like potentially new viruses being introduced, or other effluent and pollution, because these are typically termed cumulative effects. So sometimes one effect can synergistically interact with another negative effect to produce an added negative effect. So we have to consider everything else that's hammering salmon and aquatic systems in this ecosystem, and take that into account as well when we think about the threats about such a pipeline. And so there's a lot of threats that we face with regards to these sorts of things. And I just want to end off on more of a personal note. I'm interested in this sort of thing because I grew up fishing with my dad and my family, and I used to go hiking and camping a fair bit, and that's why I got into this line of work. I want to conserve what we have left. I realize the value of ecosystem services and goods, despite the fact that this economic system doesn't give them any value. We need to push for that. We need to push for the fact that these systems produce food for us and clean water. And just in my experience, when I've been working for Watershed Watch for a number of years now, working with First Nations, working with citizens and other environmental groups, I've actually seen when people come together, they actually do elicit change. And I just want to thank David for putting this together, and I think this is a great example of how people come together and work together. They can actually make a difference despite the pushing that government pushes forward with these industries and industry. So I just want to thank David for that, and that's it.
My name's Tanya Hill, and I'm just a concerned citizen, and I want to support First Nations rights and the earth rights here, and I'm also a working freelance journalist. So I'm here to possibly write a story about the event. And I grew up as well on Vancouver Island, and ever since I can remember, I've been concerned with environmental rights, with Pequot Sound, Carmana Valley, and I also went camping and fishing with my folks over there, so it's kind of something that I've always been concerned with, and I just came here to support everyone here. Thanks.
My name is Rodney. I'm a firm believer in social license. Most people are good people, and they want the same things you want. They want clean air and clean rivers. So you need to, even though you think an issue is really difficult to be able to stopping Kinder Morgan, stopping anything, it's really a lot easier than you think. All you have to do is create a buzz. So when people sit down and talk about things, they talk about what you're doing. So, and I do want to, I'm going to just give you some examples, because I started when I was 19, and I was fishing off the coast with my uncle, and we heard about Amchitka, and I thought, well, gee, why don't I just sail a boat up there? And I had a small boat available, and then I met other like-minded people, and they said, that boat's way too small, there's no way a 22-foot is going to go up to Alaska. So we ended up getting an 85-foot boat. But the situation was that we went up there, we stopped the United States military industrial complex setting off nuclear bombs in Alaska. It sounds like such an idiotic thing to do, but that's what they were doing. And we stopped it. And we actually moved down in the South Pacific. That was also stopped. We moved into whaling. That was also stopped. I've done numerous issues, blockades in Ilaho, for example, where we had 36 people in jail. That was also stopped. I can go on numerous successes. I want to bring on the successes because you don't believe that you can actually stop things, and out of the blue something comes out of the blue, and it ends up that you've stopped a project, or you've actually created what you wanted to create. So I encourage people to keep going.
And I can email you all the picture of this as it was being repaired over time. Over about 6 weeks, they put one patch on, then they put another. They put bloody aluminum wrap around it. And it's an interesting chronicle. Then it filled up with water. This sign could mean repair site, but it could mean other things. It could double up to other things. I think, but I can't prove it yet, that whenever you see one of these signs along the pipe side, it's a place where they've been repairing it. Now it might be the depth. I think these denote repair sites, but I've got to do some more research. But you're going to find out even a bigger eye opener in a minute. But I can send you by email, anybody who wants to, I can send you this this thing being repaired over about 6 weeks. They were here for a long time. They had a trailer here. I walked down that side.
How long's a long time?
Just 6 weeks. It feels like 2 months after.
Okay.
It costs a lot of money to break.
So how deep, how much have they excavated here?
Don't know. Don't have that information.
Well,
We
okay.
can get it though through National Energy Board.
So down where we were before, not here, is where they took out 540 metric tons of
No,
cubic
it's
metric.
520 cubic meters. I'm just guessing here, but I would guess here, looking by the distance, area that, probably several hundred or maybe 200 cubic meters of stuff went out here to Richmond.
Yeah.
Just guessing.
Oh, you mean the contaminated soil?
I don't want to go to court.
Well, I heard.
Yeah.
Where did you get the 540 from?
I have that in your correspondence that I emailed you from National Energy Board. That was
Okay,
a nice
so that
bit
was
of
from the
correspondence.
National Energy Board.
Yeah.
So it's that's 54 dump trucks
Is that?
full of contaminated
54.
oil. So that gives you an idea how much oil was
They're
still.
small spills.
54 dump trucks.
But then there's a lot of contamination that sort of went down this water
Yeah.
way too.
They dug out all the soil around the creek because there must have been oil in there. So it's quite common to take a chunk out and replace it. But then 95%, as this maintenance man told me at the Kingsville station there on the outside, he says they just put this clamp on. So I think we've got something here. We have to, TDW2 told us what? Which company was that?
T.D. Williamson,
TD Williamson.
and they're a U.S. company that supplies pipeline.
Wow. Each other, Kind of interesting.
So this is where you can see the pipe, right?
Yeah. We got to do a bit of walking. Now we lost Roy and
What do you mean a bit of walking? No way.
yeah, got to walk.
You got me.
No, I think obviously you both have the most traditions and most language. I love them. I met a lady, is it not, or is that just black soil?
I
Doubt it. It's probably oil.
wish we had a cup for a sample.
You mean this here?
That's how small it is.
The pipe?
Yeah.
You should have brought a Band-Aid or something in.
That would have been.
It's about 2 feet.
Inside diameter probably is no more than
A little bit
20
more.
inches or
Oh, the
18
pipe?
inches.
Okay,
No,
I'm gonna talk.
I think it's 2 feet.
I'm gonna bullshit now.
That's the outside part.
Well, yeah. What?
Take away the.
It's about a 1/4 inch.
Is it 24-inch pipe? Yeah, 24.
It's about a 1/4 inch thick.
Here we are at a daylighted site, repair site near Juliet, down from the Coquihalla summit about 6 miles. And they've finished putting the
So
sleeve,
the
but
question is that dark stuff over there oil or not?
and this is the original coating, tar paper, tar impregnated
What there is it's just I thought it was
felt,
actually-
and that's where they've,
I didn't see that dark.
I think, repaired the pipe without having to cut a hole in it. Just fitted the sleeve over and welded on
Which is exactly what that looks like.
a sleeve.
Yeah. And then they coated it with epoxy paint, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that epoxy paint on top there?
Probably.
So
Yeah.
they brought trucks in to dump this nuclear in there. Because this all had to be scooped out, right?
I saw it when they were digging it out. So why they took the truck away, I guess it takes so long, they took the backhoe away, they don't want to look at, instead of, everybody would see it like me. So they took it, I don't know why they took it away, but they took it, they ran it off the road. And they'll finish doing this now, they have to have the backhoe back in here. Now that's to pump the water out, that thing.
Oh yeah.
Today we visited the first spill site that was in the media a great deal at Kingsvale. And we found the spill site and 4 other repair sites around it. And now we're coming back towards Juliet, towards the summit. We found another daylighted site where we can actually see the pipe with another sleeve, apparently where they haven't cut out the length of pipe. And they put epoxy stuff over top of it. But we can see the original coating that's still there from 60 years ago. And a number here, 948.1, which I believe is kilometers that way. We have to do some more research on that too. And then
So-
we have a sheen here. This seems to be sand. Oh, now it feels oily in my hand.
Well, this is oil.
This black stuff.
Yeah, this black stuff is oil. And that's the Band-Aid there. If you can take a shot of that,
I already did. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like a little Band-Aid they put over. They're not replacing the pipe. It's still going to be corroded inside, but it's going to have Band-Aid band around it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think when you start patching stuff up like this, I don't think they're planning to keep this pipe very long. But it's been around for what, 70 years now, 80 years?
Well, you think they'd dig it all up and put a new one down. That would all kinds of regulatory stuff they don't want to go through.
Plus they're making $1 million a day.
$1.2 million gross.
So how do they know that this is a spot where there's a leak? Or
My knowledge from that is that they use pigs, which is an internal computerized thing, which is run through the pipe, not very often, which I can't figure out, because I thought some people told me only every 10 years. And from that, they get GPS data about where the anomalies are, and that's the end of my knowledge.
I'm here today to have a look at Kinder Morgan's pipeline. We were told that we were going to be able to see an area where there's a pinhole leak, but it looks like we've arrived here and there's evidence that there's a patch job been done. They've welded on this sleeve that they call it, and then it'll be marked with one of these iron pin markers that we've identified earlier. We're trying to figure out what the digits on the sign mean. But it looks like this is a 60-year-old pipe that they're utilizing yet, and it's aging, and we don't know if it is a pinhole leak or a crack or wear from age. But this is a concern that they have 60-year-old infrastructure not being properly maintained. Probably needs replacing. But this is what they're doing right now. Is every time they find one of these leaks, going out and giving it a patch job, and it's putting a band-aid on a big wound. So it's a stopgap emergency measure to make sure that this pipe continues to flow oil. So.
At $1 million a day.
Yes, that's common knowledge. There has been an oil spill in here, so they're doing some regular maintenance, and they're doing some construction.
And you're with, who are you?
I'm a security officer.
Security with, employed by?
I'm a security officer.
Yes.
Private company, that's all.
Yeah, so
we're just contracted to work for.
We're just contracted to work. Okay.
What's this all about?
Oh, they're talking about, I just asked if the trail was not open, and that was before I saw that sign, which explains, he was explaining to me in further detail that they're doing construction maintenance, and that's where the spill was.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Ah.
So these are contractors responsible for security, I guess, of the spill site and the work that's going on.
Right, and that's workers' compensation or what? Security for what? Like
For safety and security in the area, yeah.
Oh yeah.
For the provincial government?
No, it's not the provincial government. We're providing safety and security for the company here.
For Manning Park?
No.
No?
We're not in Manning Park.
Oh, we're not in Manning Park?
No.
For who? Trails BC?
No, I was asking about that. It's the Trans Mountain Pipeline that...
Oh, Kinder Morgan.
Yeah.
For maintenance that's going on and on the road.
For Kinder Morgan,
and
right?
heavy equipment.
So is it ever open for riders again, or like hikers? Or?
What's happening right now is that it is open off work hours for trail use.
Yeah.
It's never open for vehicles anyway.
Oh, okay. So you can hike. You can hike down. Yeah.
You can hike down. There's security provisions in place in a variety of locations for safety of people who do come by, as well as for us. And that's it. During work hours, which are variable, and we don't know what they are. They vary. It's completely closed.
Right. And on the weekends?
It's variable.
Oh, okay. Right on. There you go.
Well, how's the moose watching around here?
Not bad. Well, I've only seen the moose with the calf. That's been it.
Again, one time?
Yeah, one time.
And the deer this week?
No, I just got up here today, so I haven't seen much of it.